Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Okay, together now. Devin Saraswatim Vyasam Tato Janudire Nashta Praesha Padreshu Nityam Bhavata Sevaya Bhagavati Utamashloke Bhakti Bhagavati Naishtaki. Before reciting the Srimad Bhagavatam, which is the very means of conquest, one should offer respectful obeisances unto the personality of Godhead, Narayan, and unto Narayan Rarushi, the supermost human being, unto Mother Saraswati, the goddess of learning, and to Srila Vyasadeva, the author. By regular attendance in classes on the Bhagavatam, and by rendering of service to the pure devotee, all that is troublesome to the heart is almost completely destroyed, and loving service unto the personality of Godhead, whose praise with transcendental songs is established as an irrevocable fact. Hare Krishna. Today we will be going, this is the end of the fight against Lord Bor and Hiranyaksha, and now the fight is over, the Lord's returning to his abode, and yeah, let's get into it. Starting with text 31, we'll go men's side, ladies' side, because we have more men. Okay, or that.
Sri Maitreya continued, after thus killing the most formidable demon Hiranyaksha, the Supreme Lord Hari, the origin of the boar species, returned to his own abode, where there is always an uninterrupted festival. The Lord was praised by all the demigods headed by Brahma.
Uninterrupted festival. Okay, continue.
We had this morning.
Yeah, like today's group project.
Maitreya continued, my dear Vidura, I have explained to you the personality of Godhead's coming down as the first born incarnation and killing in a great fight a demon of unprecedented prowess, as if he were just a plaything. This has been narrated by me as I heard it from my predecessor spiritual master.
Sri Shuta Goswami continued, my dear Brahmana, Kshata Vidura, the great devotee of the Lord achieved transcendental bliss by hearing the narration of the pastimes of the Supreme Personality of Godhead from the authoritative source of the sage Kosharava, Maitreya, and he was very pleased.
What to speak of hearing the pastime of the Lord, whose chest is marked with Srivasa. People may take transcendental pleasure even in hearing of the works and deeds of the devotees whose fame is immortal.
The personality of Godhead delivered the king of the elephants, who was attacked by an alligator, and who meditated upon the lotus feet of the Lord. At that time, the female elephants who accompanied him were crying, and the Lord saved them from the impending danger.
What's the name of that elephant? Who's
Gajendra.
Haribol. Okay, we can continue.
What grateful soul is there who would not render his loving service to such a great master as the personality of Godhead? The Lord can be easily pleased by spotless devotees who resort exclusively to him for protection, though the unrighteous man finds it difficult to propitiate him.
O Brahmanas, anyone who hears, chants, or takes pleasure in the wonderful narration of the killing of the Hiranyaksha demon by the Lord, who appeared as the first boar in order to deliver the world, is at once relieved of the results of sinful activities, even the killing of a Brahmana.
Okay, I just want a quick note here. Hearing the narrations of the Lord, we're relieved of all sinful activities, and the greatest sinful activity, the greatest offense you can commit against a sadhu is to murder them. And then under that we have blasphemy. Under that we have just not receiving them properly. We see that in a few stories we've read already. Can anyone name one? story where a sage wasn't received properly.
This story when the gatekeepers didn't receive the poor.
Yeah,
Yeah, Kumar.
I didn't even think of that actually. Rasika?
Yeah, the one where you have, Parikshit Maharaj
Yeah.
and the Brahmana where he throws a snake on his shoulders. It's the reason why this whole unfoldment of the Bhagavatam happened.
Yeah, I was thinking that one. I was also thinking the story of the sage who went to go test who was the best, Vishnu, Shiva, or Brahma. What's his name? Rigu? Rigamuni, yeah. But I won't get into that story. But I just wanted to note that it's also an offense not to be happy in the presence of a sadhu. Because, externally we should receive them well, but internally we also need to receive them. Because they're
This most sacred narrative confers extraordinarily merit, wealth, fame, longevity, and all the objects of one's desires. On the field of battle, it promotes the strength of one's vital organs and organs of action. One who listens to it at the last moment of his life is transferred to the supreme abode of the Lord, O dear Sankya.
okay. Can you go back to 33? Okay. Sutta uvacha iti kasarva kyayatam ashruta bhagavakatam kastanandam param lebhye maha bhagavato tidra. Okay, please chant.
Sutta vacha.
Sutta vacha iti kosharvakyatam
Ashrudya Bhagavad Katha.
ashruta bhagavakatam
Shattanandam Paramdeve.
Shattanandam paramlebe Mahabhagavato Jita. Sutta uvacha iti kosharvakyatam ashrutya bhagavakatam Shattanandam paramlebe Mahabhagavato Jita. Sutta uvacha iti kosharvakyatam ashrutya bhagavakatam Shattanandam paramlebhe Mahabhagavato Dvija. Word for word. Sutta Goswami Uvacha said, iti thus, Akyatam told, Ashrutya having heard, Bhagavatam narration about the Lord, Shata Vidura, Anandam bliss, Param transcendental, Yeh achieved, Mahabhagavata great devotee. Okay. Repeat after me. Sri Sukha Goswami continued. My dear Brahmana, Vidura, the great devotee of the Lord, achieved transcendental bliss by hearing the narration of the pastimes of the Lord, Supreme Personality of Godhead. From the authoritative source of the sage Maitreya, and he was very pleased. Okay, wait, stay on there real quick. Go up to the top. Sri Sutta Goswami. Okay, so the Bhagavatam is like a bunch of conversations being repeated, and Sri Sutta Goswami is the one he's at the Assembly of Sages in the forest, and they're talking about the conversation then with Parikshit and Shukadev. And Shukadev and Parikshit are talking about Maitreya and Vidura. But Sri Sutta Goswami is just so overwhelmed with bliss that he can't help but to break the third wall. You guys know what the third wall is in a movie when like Deadpool does it sometimes, but when like the character talks directly to the audience. And yeah, Sri Sutta Goswami, it's rare that he chimes in, but he's just so like excited about this. Like Vidura, just on hearing the pastimes of the Lord, is going into ecstasy, and he's getting secondhand ecstasy from it. So he just chimes in, which is rare. So we'll continue. Purport. Does anyone want to read this?
Yes, I'll read it.
Okay.
If anyone wants to derive transcendental pleasure by hearing the pastimes of the Lord, he must hear from the authoritative source, as explained here. Maitreya heard the narration from his bona fide spiritual master, and Vidura also heard from Maitreya. One becomes an authority simply by presenting whatever he has heard from his spiritual master, and one who does not accept a bona fide spiritual master cannot be an authority. This is clearly explained here. If one wants to have transcendental pleasure, he must find a person with authority. It is also stated in the Bhagavatam that simply by hearing from an authoritative source, with the ear and the heart, one can relish the pastimes of the Lord. Otherwise, it is not possible. Sanatana Goswami, therefore, has especially warned that one should not hear anything about the personality of the Lord from the lips of a non-devotee. Non-devotees are considered to be like serpents. As milk is poisoned by a serpent's touch, so, although the narration of the pastimes of the Lord is as pure as milk, when administered by serpent-like non-devotees, it becomes poisonous. Not only does it have no effect in transcendental pleasure, but it is dangerous also. Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu has warned that no description of the pastimes of the Lord should be heard from the Mayavada or impersonalist school. He has clearly said, Mayavadi Bhashya Sunil Haya Sarvanasha. If anyone hears the Mayavadi's interpretation of the pastimes of the Lord or their interpretation of Bhagavad Gita, Srimad Bhagavatam, or any other Vedic literature, then he is doomed. Once one is associated with impersonalists, he can never understand the personal feature of the Lord and his transcendental pastimes.
You can continue.
Oh, yeah. Sutta Goswami was speaking to the sages headed by Shaunaka, and therefore he addressed them in his verse as Dvija, twice born. The sages assembled in Namashrayana, hearing Srimad Bhagavatam from Sutta Goswami, were all Brahmanas, but to acquire the qualifications of a Brahmana is not everything. Merely to be twice born is not perfection. Perfection is attained when one hears the pastimes and activities of the Lord from a bona fide source.
Haribol. This last line, perfection is attained when one hears the pastimes and activities of the Lord from a bona fide source. It's been weird in Krishna consciousness to come back to a place of accepting authority because I've never found proper authority. In Kali Yuga, we're all so used to being exploited and hurt and looking up to people and being disappointed, like our parents, anyone in Kali Yuga, except the sages. And so it's just been weird to have this journey of submitting to authority. And we also all have this tendency to want to be the boss. We want to lord over everything. That's why we're here. And we rejected Krishna's authority and we wanted to give it a shot. And so this coming back to Krishna we have to get over ourselves and slowly submit and surrender to a bona fide source. I remember when I first heard the word servant in like a Taco Tuesday, I was like kind of disturbed. I'm like, I don't want to be the servant of anything. I don't understand that. And but the longer you stick around, the more you realize it's the only thing that will actually bring you any kind of peace in this world. And Krishna House has become like a sanctuary because I deeply trust all of the authorities here, Kartikeya, Shruti, Advaita, Kalakanta, and it's not just a blind trust. I see the way they move and the way they interact with people, and I feel like it's just been weird to find proper authority. Has anyone else ever felt like that, like a teenager? Or I'm the only one who struggled with authority? Okay, cool. Yeah, and so this kind of sanctuary and safety that we feel from the proper authorities we find, the senior devotees we find, it allows for the little kid inside of us to come out. Like, I feel like the more I chant, the more I feel like a little kid on the inside. And it's this return to purity from finding people who show you safety and sanctuary. And one moment, my mouth is a little dry. And this return to purity and Krishna conscious, lately I've been more imaginative than I've ever been before. Like, my imagination has just been running wild since I started chanting, or since I started to chant more. And I just see how this process is returning me back to getting more in touch with the purity that's in me. And when I visualize it, it's a little kid inside of my heart. And sometimes I see everyone around me as little kids too. And this is Krishna. He's eternally youthful, and he's imaginative, and he's playful, and he's fun, and he's lighthearted, and all of these things. A quote that I liked before I came here was, "Angels fly because they take themselves lighthearted," and so I think that just ties into being a little kid on the inside, not being overly serious. And I see it with devotees. Like I said this to Kunti, and I've said it to other people before, that it's so weird how a devotee can be like a 5-year-old, and then all of a sudden they switch into this 500-year-old and spit some wisdom. So it's this interesting dichotomy all the time. And we don't blindly submit to authority. That is so dangerous. We see that in the Crusades and many other religious settings where the essence is kind of lost, but people submit when there's not confirmation. And how do we... And how do we know that we find proper authority? The thing is, our hearts tell us. It's not blind. Our hearts confirm, and you feel it when you're around someone who is living by their principles and living in strong sadhana, and it's something you want to aspire to, and you feel it. The guru in your heart confirms it for you. There is no blind faith with this. This whole process, there is no blind faith. It's a scientific process. You chant, you sincerely apply yourself, and you will feel the results. So it's said that the guru in the heart manifests externally as a guru who we can surrender to when the disciple is ready Just like Yoda appears when Luke is ready, and the guru becomes an external manifestation of the mercy of Nityananda, and we should see guru as a Radha associate, an intimate associate of Radharani, and we should see guru as the door to the spiritual world. And once we feel this confirmation inside of us, we offer service to them. Have you guys heard of Guru Dakshmi? Typically we think that's money, which I'm sure your guru wouldn't mind money. But the thing is, what your guru really wants to see is your own spiritual advancement. The best service you can provide to your guru is chanting good japa, actually integrating the lessons they tell you. It's not your guru's job to tell you the same thing over and over again. You should write it down. And giving our time in the service of Krishna. Guru will definitely, offering money to Guru is great, but what Guru really wants to see is your spiritual advancement. And when we are doing all these things, like proper japa and actual integration of the lessons, Krishna and Guru are more inclined to continue the mercy flow. And when you're making your Guru happy by being strong in your sadhana, you're making Krishna happy. And Guru has anxiety for spreading the names of Lord Chaitanya around the world as efficiently and quickly as possible. And Guru's anxiety is slightly relieved when they see a disciple integrating the lessons and mercy of Lord Chaitanya and doing their best to serve the mission of Prabhupada. And this is a service to our Guru, relieving just a little bit of their anxiety for the spreading of the holy name, showing them they're not alone in that mission, and we can help. Okay, this is... Okay. It is said that all the knowledge of the Vedas is revealed to us when we bow down to a guru, when we submit to a guru, and sincerely. And meditating on the instructions of a guru brings perfection. All the secrets of the universe are encoded in this mantra. We just have to properly listen to bona fide sources, and perfect knowledge is attained. Everything we could ever want to know is inside of this mantra, encoded. It is deep down. It is a treasure pleasure. We have to dig for it. We have to dig. It does not come easily. It does not come within the first year of chanting. It's something you have to continually work for. But as we continue to dig for the treasure pleasure in our hearts, eventually, at some point, we'll hit the jewel. And it is perfection. It is the jewel of our heart is perfect. And it is what Krishna really wants. And so meditating on the instructions of the Lord, of Guru and the Lord, it can feel impossible sometimes. Like Prabhupada was told to come preach to Americans, and that's such a daunting task. How could one, it's very easy to be like, Guru, that's not possible. I have a wife, I have children, I have a business. How can I fulfill this instruction of yours? But Prabhupada had unflinching faith. And we just have to have faith in the instructions of Guru. They can feel impossible. We can feel like, Krishna, I don't have the strength to do this. I don't have the intellect to do this. But we do our best, and Krishna does the rest. And even if we're not supposed to be attached to the fruits of our actions anyway, we do what we can, and Krishna will do what he wants, but it's our act of following the instructions that purifies us. And there's a famous story about the South Indian Brahmin who was illiterate. Does anyone know it? Probably a lot of you. and his guru told him, you need to read the Gita every day. And but he's illiterate. But he didn't question his guru, like, Guru, I can't read, why are you asking me to do this? He went to the temple and he sat down every day and held the Gita out upside down. All the other Brahmins made fun of him, like, you're dumb, you're not even reading, why are you crying? You know, you don't belong here, you can't even read. And but Lord Chaitanya one day saw this, and he said that this man understands the teachings of the Gita, and Lord Chaitanya showed his mercy upon him. And so when we dutifully follow the instructions of our master, regardless of what we think about them, like, this is impossible, we attain perfection. The Brahmana was crying because he said, all I can do is imagine Krishna driving the chariot for Arjuna. And I just start bawling, and it's very, very touching that just following the instructions to the best of our ability will attain perfection. And so I've been meditating on this acronym for faith, and Carmen, do you remember it? I told Carmen. Freedom attained in the heart. When our hearts tell us that we have found proper authority, because we attain a certain, and we actually submit to that authority, we attain a certain level of freedom of expression, freedom from fear, freedom from that we're not doing the right thing. We know we're doing the right thing. This is bona fide by Krishna. When Krishna comes onto this earth, he takes a guru. He's showing us the way. The way to him is through a guru. You know, I don't know all of his incarnations, but Krishna takes a guru. What's Krishna's guru's name, Nitai? Sandapani Muni? Okay. This faith allows us to follow the instructions. It's not a blind thing. And I heard once from a acharya in our line that we should chant like we're falling off a cliff. And it's this certain level of trust that someone's going to catch you. And this is what a leap of faith means. We jump off the cliff and we know that it's because Guru told us to, we'll be caught. Okay, maybe don't do that. But it's metaphor. It's a metaphor, and and you know, a lot of us are new. So what do we do if we don't have a guru? How are we supposed to follow all these instructions, and how are we supposed to attain perfection if we can't even find a guru? The thing is, Prabhupada is all of our gurus, and he will always be our gurus. And even though he's not in his physical body, we can have a very living connection with him. And for example, when I told my parents I was moving into the ashram, they didn't take it that well at all. But but I've recently heard that it's like as a Westerner, I just told them, I'm doing this. I don't care what you say, but I've heard it's a little different for Eastern cultures and families. But so I told them I'm doing this. It was like I took a step towards Prabhupada's mission, and that night he came to me in my dream, and it was a very powerful experience. But Prabhupada is alive. His movement is alive, and we can connect with it. And Prabhupada is our gurus, and he can instruct us through his readings, through his books, reading his books. And I don't know if you guys have this experience, but I'll just be reading randomly, like a random class, and it'll be exactly what I was talking about to someone the day before. And it's just this living movement and Prabhupada's constantly instructing us through our senior devotees and through his books. Yeah, what what are some other ways you guys have had a living connection with Prabhupada even though his physical body is dead? What are some ways you guys have felt a living connection? John?
If I have a private, open conversation with just his image, having a picture of him on the altar or even in the temple, and having an open dialogue and giving my gratitude, giving my concerns, and asking, for him to show me how to serve him, love him and the Lord better, and he'll reciprocate. Anybody who steps to Srila Prabhupada with any kind of desire for a relationship, he'll show up.
Thanks for that. He does show up. And similarly with the being a servant thing, when I first came to the temple, I'm like, you guys have a wax statue of a person? It was very off-putting. It was a red flag, I would say. And that's just coming in from like a strictly, that was just my conditioning. It was a red flag. And, but I'm starting to understand a little bit more that Prabhupada, we honor him because he set the foundation of our liberation. And he set these scriptures, they're locked in, and he created this organization that helps spread the movement. But I do want to make have a quick talk about the dangers of organizations and institutions. Does anyone know that Bhakti Saraswati Thakur quote where he's saying that, where he's pointing out the false churches? Does anyone know what I'm talking about? You do? No? Okay. Yeah, I couldn't find it, so I won't talk about it. But I've heard it from before, and really,
I think it's the one that he compares it to Putana. It's like Putana is the demoness of all the churches and the fake gurus who try to initiate people, but really they're just like adding bad karma and bad guidance.
There's also another one where he says that if everything is reduced to institution only and bureaucracy, everything will be ruined.
Thank you. If everything becomes a bureaucracy, it'll be ruined.
Bureaucracy only.
Yeah, bureaucracy only.
We have to maintain it organized, but that's not the only.
We need the institution and we need the movement. And when you lose one, you get very harmful settings. And I grew up in churches, and I definitely always felt like there's a lack of actual movement of the heart. The dynamic nature of the heart was not there. It wasn't. I didn't feel it when the preacher was talking, and I'm sure there are some churches that are on it, that have the essence and the organization. But it's just important that we always keep the movements alive in our hearts. And something I said about devotees when I first came here, I was like, they actually walk their talk. This is so nice. They actually do all the things that they're saying. And no, you're good. But thank you. They actually do all the things they're talking about. Brucey.
So I think he was raising his hand for me. But it's interesting that Bhaktisiddhanta's statements about institutionalization were almost prophetic. His instruction to all of his disciples when he was passing was, cooperate and carry on the mission. And it was a result of the fact that they didn't follow those instructions, and they began infighting and talking about who would become the next acharya. But he didn't want another acharya. He had, just like Prabhupada had set up a GBC, as it were, a governing body. They were arguing over properties and whatnot. He just wanted to, if he could, he thought he would want to sell off all the marble of all these temples and buy books or print books and spread the mission. And it was only Prabhupada who actually followed his guru's instructions, at least initially. And he was a great success, of course. But it was a failure to follow the instructions of Guru that caused that institutionalization. That he was very prophetic in this regard.
Yeah, Guru wants to see us cooperate. Not cooperating with God brothers and sisters is really an offense to Guru. And this competitive nature that we all have is a materialistic conditioning. Yes, it's good to strive to be the best, and like internally you can compete with yourself. But I've also heard that you shouldn't try to be a great devotee, you should try to be a good devotee, because great devotees get all the recognition in the world and everyone praises them, but we shouldn't be looking for that. We just want to be a good servant of the Lord. And this kind of institutions can bring stagnation, but really what we're looking for is expansion of consciousness. The soul is expansive and dynamic. The spiritual world is constantly growing and evolving. We have Krishna and his energies expand, then Krishna becomes conscious of them, and his energies expand again, and then Krishna becomes conscious of them again. And in this way, the spiritual world is ever fresh and ever growing. And similarly, there is no limit to the love we can feel for Krishna and Guru. We can always grow our love for Krishna. I have found myself being like, oh, here's that love feeling again, and I like put it in my nice little area. But that's so unhealthy. The thing is, love is expansive, and there's no limit to the amount of love that we can feel. There's no limit to the amount of mercy we can receive. And we should not have this mentality of, oh, I've hit it again. Like, no, I've hit it, and there's no wall. There's no wall, unless we put one up. And that's kind of all my points. Thank you guys for listening. Any questions, comments, corrections, reflections, etc.? Nitai?
We started this purport, it said something about one of the translations was like it's a festival, uninterrupted festival. And
Uninterrupted
I just wanted to ask you, what's your experience been like? Do you feel like Krishna consciousness is an uninterrupted festival, or if there's interruptions, what causes the interruptions?
I feel like we're getting there. There's definitely interruptions. My algorithms come back in all the time to tell me that and my doubts come in, and most of us probably aren't at Nishta. When you're at Nishta, it's uninterrupted festival, but we're not there. We're going to have moments where we're like, Haribol! And then some days we're going to wake up at 5:30 and be like, and like ready to fight. I woke up like that 2 days this week, where I was genuinely for no reason ready to fight someone. It's so unhealthy, but it's just my conditionings. Yeah, fight my own mind, shoot my own foot, something. So yeah, that's what I think uninterrupted festival means. Like in the spiritual world, is eternally blissful. We're always finding new things to do with Krishna and finding new ways to serve him and existing with him, and that's the nature of our soul, is to be expansive. Yeah. Oh yes.
Krishna Prabhu, thank you for your wonderful class. I just want to appreciate you for offering very sweet and even simple, but yet sanguine, which is like a word for essential realization about your journey and your realization, your experience in Krishna consciousness, and reminding us that it is sweet and simple, both. that we just keep on coming back to that center line, that core in the heart, as you said. And I liked your acronym. I'm really big on words, and acronyms work great for me too. And that faith, can you repeat what that was?
Freedom attained in the heart.
Wow. That's so
It could also be fearlessness.
Okay,
Yeah.
good. Yeah, and Srila Prabhupada is Abhaya Charana. So he's fearless, having taken shelter of the lotus feet of Krishna. So yeah, that's a reminder of that. And that KISS out there, you hear that, keep it simple, stupid. That's another acronym I like to remember, that Krishna and Kirtan are sweet and simple. Krishna is sweet and simple. So you come back to home, back in the God heart.
Yes.
So that, thank you for that.
Yeah, it's so simple. It's 3 words that we chant over and over. Oh, time? Okay. Rasika?
I was just going to say that was a fantastic class, Nate, very inspiring, and I want to thank you for speaking to our hearts this morning. It was really nice.
Thank you, Rasika.
Thank you.
Let's crank up the prasadam prayers. Wait, First, Bhagavatam ki, Srimad Bhagavatam ki. Okay. Whatever. Krishna Bharatoyama Yami Hare Jivata Swaprasadana Kilo Bhai Se Ram Vitoka Radha Krishna Gunaga Reme Dato Chaitanya Nitai Jani Bhai Janitai Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai Gora Premanande Hari Hari Bo Hare Krishna